speak, I'm going to lay down a few tracks. Just kidding. You couldn't do that. You know, from time to time in this debate during healthcare, you know, I've kind of felt that sometimes we as Democrats, we come into knife fights carrying library books. That we sometimes become so intellectualized about things, we develop such a fidelity to process that we forget that politics for the other team is what they don't want. They don't want anyone who's not already ahead to get ahead. They don't want anyone who's lacking to get the care they need. They have a frankly much easier job to do because they just have to stop anything from happening. But as a result, what it means is that they have a sense when they come into every single fight that they're going to punch and punch and punch. And this year, we showed them that we can take a punch and give one back as well, and that's why we truly have done what was said in the introduction, laid the foundation on which we're going to be able to build a lot more in the future. And we should not stop trying. You know, this feels pretty good winning one of these. Yeah. You know, I've been in Congress for 12 years. When I started in Congress, some of you knew me then, I was 6'4", 270 pounds, which was all that's left. And for some reason my neck was shorter. That I don't understand. But I can tell you, having a Democratic president and a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate and a democratic country makes a difference. And we have to fight this year to make sure we keep it. You know, there really was this idea that emerged as this campaign went on for health care, that people would sometimes say, why is it that the two parties can't just get along and work this out? Maybe if we just let the Gang of Six, remember those guys? The Gang of Six. Just maybe they work for a while. Maybe suddenly Senator Enzi will come up with a solution to health care. Or maybe if we just persuaded Olympia Snow to come on board. Or maybe if we just waited for Joe Lieberman's schizophrenia medication to kick in, maybe everything would fall into place. But in fact, that we forgot is one of the things about American politics that's so nourishing is we believe things. We're Democrats and progressives because we believe stuff. It's not just because we have an idea that we're willing to take a third of it or a quarter of it and then move along, or, okay, you've got a crummy idea, I'll take that one too. We believe things, and that's why we're passionate about public life and why we're passionate about politics. That's why we're patriotic, because we feel things strongly about how our country should be. And we, from time to time, and I would say this, even the president from time to time forgot that basic element of this conversation. That we're fighting for health care for more Americans because we believe that people should have health care. We believe it because for them, we believe it because it's right for us as taxpayers, we believe it because it's right for us as families that are struggling to pay our bills. We believe these things. And much of the debate was divided in this country because we were right and they were wrong. And we were unwilling to just say, okay, we'll be wrong too. And that wasn't a bad thing about American life, that was a good thing. That was a thing that we should be proud of. We live in a city that's surrounded by water. If we don't do it because it's good for the world, let's do it just so that we don't have to wade through Lower Manhattan. I think that if we learned a meta lesson in this healthcare debate, it's that we have to start fighting sooner.
Good.
That we have to start internalizing the idea that we are a country that's very divided on some big ideological things. And every single moment that we are stroking our beards and gazing at our navel and thinking about the world we'd like to be and singing Kumbaya, that's another day that we're not punching Bill O'Reilly in the nose. So we have to take this into our fights. Not that we are going to be the anti-intellectual party. We're going to be the guys coming up with ideas, but realizing that we now have the ground troops to fight to make them a reality, that we're not going to duck a fight, we're going to take it on head on, and you won't see them the way I see them, but sometime in the next several years, there are literally going to be millions of families that are going to have something that most of our families were able to give us, which is health insurance. That's not a trivial thing. You mean John Libowitz? Well, you know, it was fun. It was fun. I was the funnier guy in the household, but he got laid a lot more than I did. I don't really know. No, it was. Look, can I tell you, John is. Here's the thing about John that you should realize as you know, just watching him. One, he has become the primary source of news for a lot of Americans because, and I'm not sure that's such a terrible thing because you'll see in his coverage, he lays the foundation of the news before he satirizes it, and he's fairly equal opportunity. You know, he kind of gives it to anyone, to everyone. But he also something else. He really believes stuff. You know, and sometimes he comes through. You got to wait till the interview parts of his show to kind of see. He really believes stuff, and he's a good man. I had not been on until recently because I never, you know, I didn't have a book or anything, and I wasn't promoting. You know, I wasn't one of his comedy buddies promoting some miserable movie, but he's a good guy, and someday when we have a little more time, I'll take you on the Soho tour of the places that John was busboy before he became a big star. Well, here's what I do. I follow Twitter for the tea parties and just show up to fuck with them. That's one of the things. I just... I don't actually do that. You know, I just sit at my desk and they send me talcum powder every couple of weeks. Look, I'll leave it to someone smarter than I on how to organize and how to keep the energy going. But I think that one of the things that we should realize now is that we had to do a transition starting in the beginning of 2009 from being largely a force trying to stop bad things from happening to transitioning to the idea that now we can get up in the morning, think about things we want to have happen, and animate around them. Yes. It's a different skill set, and it's a different way that the synapses in our heads are firing, and it took us a little while to get our sea legs, but we're doing it now. I think that this means that we no longer have to sit back and wait for someone to do something to say, let's try to move this to the top of the agenda. There's no reason. We don't have to sit and wait to see what kind of troublesome things come over the transom to organize around how we're going to stop it. I think that there are as many organizing opportunities as there are ideas under the sun right now, and we really should feel this sense of potentiality. And it really is this moment now that a lot of the best ideas and energy that are coming and getting into the firmament in Washington are being generated from the grassroots. Some of them not so great, but some of them very good. I can tell you this, because I was involved in this intimately for the last 13, 14 months. I felt like I was pregnant with a bill for the last 13 months. I can tell you that the public option was dead every single time the insiders in Washington talked about it. And it came back to life every single time the public started talking about it. And don't just wait. Just because you see the president talk about immigration doesn't mean that you can't talk about, about other issues. Just because the president says he's going to wait for 6 months to get a review from his services on Don't Ask, Don't Tell doesn't mean we can't start pushing it today. Just because, just because we've done this thing on student loans doesn't mean that we can't start asking questions about elementary and secondary education reform. Just because the federal district court struck down net neutrality yesterday doesn't mean that we have to sit back and wait and say, let's hope Comcast and Time Warner does the right thing. We should be out there every day animating around this. Thank you all very much.